Today we are going to analyze and discuss the summary of the play, a comedy by William Shakespeare, Twelfth Night or What You Will. Twelfth Night or What You Will, the play took its name from a carnival which was celebrated annually in England on the 6th January, that is on the 12th day of Christmas. As it was a common practice to hold stage performances of plays as part of the observances and fests relating to that particular occasion, this play was without doubt intended to be performed on the 6th January 1602 or 1601. The play surely embodies the genial spirit of the Twelfth Night festivities and merrymaking. As for the alternative title, which is What You Will, Shakespeare seems to be inviting his audiences to regard this play as something to which they might themselves wish to give a name. Orsino, the Duke of Illyria, is in love with Countess Olivia, a high-born lady whose father had died a year before and whose only brother had also died soon afterwards, leaving her grief-stricken. In the opening scene of the play, we find the Duke feeling lovesick and listening to music to gain some relief for his worried heart. The Duke, we learn, had fallen in love with Olivia at first sight. But now one of his attendants comes and informs him that Olivia has decided to lead a life of seclusion for 7 years on account of her grief over her family's death, and is thus in no mood to admit any suitors at her house. In the next scene, we meet Viola, the daughter of a nobleman of Messalin. Her twin brother Sebastian and she were traveling on the sea when their ship was caught in a storm and wrecked. Viola has been rescued by a sea captain and now finds herself on the shore of Illyria. She has some faint hope that her brother might also have survived the shipwreck and might be alive and safe somewhere. Not knowing what to do in her desolate condition, she decides to try and get a job under Duke Orsino with the help of the sea captain who has rescued her. To make things easier for herself, she disguises herself as a man, wearing a man's clothes and adopting the masculine name of Cesario. We are then introduced to the household of Olivia, where we meet Olivia's uncle, Sir Toby Belch. Sir Toby is an alcoholic, and to meet his expenses, he depends upon Sir Andrew Aguecheek, a wealthy but gullible knight from the countryside. To keep Sir Andrew with him, Sir Toby is giving him hope that Olivia might marry him. Sir Toby knows that Olivia would never marry a fool like Sir Andrew, but Sir Toby wants to exploit him financially for his drinks. In the next scene, we find Viola dressed as a man and using the masculine name of Cesario, has already found a job in Duke Orsino's service and has in fact already been promoted to the position of the Duke's attendant. The Duke has taken Cesario into his confidence and about his love for Olivia, and he has even decided to make use of Cesario as his emissary to carry his message of love to Olivia. But Cesario, who is a woman by the name of Viola, has herself fallen in love with the Duke. As the Duke is not aware of Cesario's real identity, an ironic situation now arises. In the following scene, Cesario calls upon Olivia and conveys the Duke's message of love to her. But Olivia makes it clear to Cesario that although she admires the Duke for his many qualities, she cannot love him. And now another complication arises. Olivia falls in love with Cesario at the very first meeting. This too is a case of love at first sight. And in this connection, we may also recall the fact that the Duke too had fallen in love with Olivia at first sight. The new situation is also fraught with irony, because Olivia too does not know Cesario's real identity as a woman, while we know it well. In Act 2, Scene 1, we find that Sebastian too is alive, who is the brother of Viola. He had been saved by another sea captain, Antonio, that's the name of the sea captain, who becomes attached to Sebastian because of Sebastian's good looks and excellent nature. So after thanking Antonio, Sebastian takes leave of him and to try his luck at Duke Orsino's court. Sebastian closely resembles his twin sister Viola, so that no one can be mistaken for the other if both are dressed alike. Having fallen in love with Cesario, Olivia sends him a ring through the steward Malvolio, who, with the message that she is returning to him the ring which he had left behind, because she is not prepared to keep this ring sent to her by the Duke through Cesario. Cesario had left no ring at Olivia's house, and he therefore understands what this ring implies. It is clear to him that Olivia has fallen in love with him and has sent him this ring as a token of her love. He does not know how this complication will resolve itself. Together with the main plot, a subplot has also been taking place. Sir Toby and Maria have been annoyed by the Puritan behavior of Malvolio, the steward of Olivia. Maria decided to teach Malvolio a lesson, and she lays out a plan before Sir Toby. Duke Orsino sends Cesario once again to Olivia to proclaim his love. This time he asks Cesario to tell her that she is a woman of charm and beauty, and he was not interested in her wealth. He then tells Cesario that no woman can ever love him so intensely and so deeply as he loves Olivia. But Olivia did not entertain the Duke's suit, though she was willing to listen to Cesario. Olivia goes out of her way and proclaims her love for Cesario. Cesario replies that he can never love any woman. Olivia, pining in love for Cesario, asks one of her servants to contact him. When he comes, she presents him with a miniature picture of herself and asks him to wear it on his neck as a token of her love. In the meantime, Antonio, the sea captain, who had rescued Sebastian, comes to look for him because of his attraction towards the young man. He happens to notice Cesario, who has got into trouble with Sir Toby and Sir Andrew Aguecheek. He mistakes Cesario for Sebastian because of the close resemblance between them. As Antonio takes Cesario's side, mistaking him for Sebastian, he was taken into custody by the government officers. So Antonio had once incurred the hostility of the Duke by causing heavy damage to Duke's ships on the sea. Cesario, having seen Antonio for the first time, did not recognize him. Antonio, on his part, thinks that it was deliberate on the part of Sebastian not to recognize him, and he considers this as an ingratitude from Sebastian's side. Meanwhile, Sebastian, walking through a street, is mistaken as Cesario by Sir Toby and Sir Andrew, and they get into a fight with him. They were easily defeated and injured by Sebastian. Hearing that a fight had ensued, Olivia comes out and takes Sebastian inside her palace, thinking him to be Cesario. Thus, it is all a matter of mistaken identities. Antonio had mistaken Cesario for Sebastian. Sir Andrew and Sir Toby had mistaken Sebastian for Cesario, and Olivia too has mistaken Sebastian for Cesario. Thinking that Cesario has softened towards her, Olivia wants them to be betrothed now and the marriage to be conducted later. Sebastian, thinking that Olivia is in love with him, readily agrees to the betrothal and they get betrothed. The Duke now decides to meet Olivia personally and proclaim his love. He and his retinue, comprising Cesario and other staff, go to Olivia's house and meet Antonio on the way. The Duke immediately recognizes Antonio as the man behind the damage of his ships. But Cesario defends Antonio by explaining that it was due to his interference that he was saved from Sir Toby and Sir Andrew Aguecheek. So after seeing Cesario and thinking him to be Sebastian, Antonio again accuses Cesario of ingratitude, and Cesario couldn't understand the meaning of Antonio's accusations. Olivia comes out of the house to meet the Duke and asserts that her thoughts for the Duke have not changed and she couldn't love him. The Duke becomes angry and says that he ought to kill the heartless woman like her. But instead of her, he should kill the young man Cesario who had stolen her from him. So Cesario intervenes and says that he was willing to die 1,000 deaths to please the Duke. Now Olivia addresses Cesario as her husband and he denies her claim. Thereupon Olivia summons the priest and he also confirms that it was Cesario who had been betrothed to Olivia. They couldn't recognize him as he looked just like Sebastian. Now the Duke feels that he was cheated by Cesario, whom he had confided his secrets, and calls him a cunning and subtle fellow. He asks him to marry Olivia but never to meet him again. Cesario again denies any kind of relationship with Olivia, but Olivia asks him not to lie. With the progress of the main plot, two subplots have also been developing and both of them come to an end before the main plot ends. Maria, to teach Malvolio a lesson, gives him the impression that Olivia is in love with him. She makes Malvolio act ridiculously and embarrassingly to fulfill his love for Olivia. Sir Toby then gets Malvolio imprisoned on the ground that he has gone mad. The clown Festi disguises himself as a priest and further harasses Malvolio. Ultimately, Malvolio is released through Olivia's intervention. The next subplot is the gulling of Sir Andrew Aguecheek. Sir Toby has first encouraged him to be a suitor for Olivia, knowing well that Olivia would never marry a nincompoop like Sir Andrew Aguecheek. Sir Andrew also gets into a quarrel with Cesario and not knowing that Cesario is a woman. The fight between Andrew and Cesario takes a comic turn when Cesario shows the timidity of a woman and Andrew being afraid to take part in any duel for the fear of losing his life. The gulling of Sir Andrew is as amusing as the gulling of Malvolio in the play. Now, Sebastian comes on the scene to see Olivia but is surprised to find her in a cold attitude. He thought her attitude was because of his fight with Sir Toby and injuring him. But the Duke was also surprised to see another man like Cesario standing there. Sebastian sees Antonio and talks with him, and Antonio was also surprised by his change of attitude. Then Sebastian sees Cesario and was shocked that he looked exactly like him. He inquires about this to Cesario and finds that it was his sister in the guise of a man whom he believed to be drowned. He was really happy that his sister was still alive. Olivia now realizes that she had got betrothed to Sebastian, thinking him to be Cesario. The Duke now offers to marry Viola, who had given him assurances of her love in an indirect manner when she had been posing as a man. It is then decided that the two marriages would be solemnized on the same day and the play ends on a happy note. Thank you. Please subscribe to my channel to listen to more videos of this type. Thank you once again.